Hi, my name is Kui, and today you're going to learn a lot about blockchain and Koinos specifically. I've been involved with the project as a community member since the launch in October 2021. Currently, it's on its third and final testnet phase with the mainnet coming out later this year. I've got nothing to sell you, and I'll explain to you exactly why later on this video. Who's this video for? Anyone who is interested in blockchain but haven't taken that first step, anyone who's interested in the Koinos blockchain specifically, it's something new they just found out and want to get a high-level overview of what it is. It's also for people who are realizing that decentralization is becoming more and more important in today's society. Lastly, for people who have a desire to change the way the world behaves, they may find that blockchain technology is the only way for that to actually be possible. So first, let's talk about the existing market. Everyone's heard of Bitcoin and likely Ethereum. The more important thing is that you can buy it and you can move it across borders and no government can take it from you. And that's a very powerful tool that people are starting to see. It has more to do with decentralization than anything else. And you can apply those ideas to other areas. And this is where Koinos really shines. Now, obviously, what we do today is a product of the lessons learned from yesterday. And we've realized there's certain strengths that blockchains have and certain applications that they're really good for. Koinos captures that very well. It has learned from all the past mistakes on other blockchains that have effectively, and you'll learn later on in this video, created fees, barriers to entry, difficulty in access, which can all be summarized by the word accessibility. Likely, there's no application out there that you want to use that requires you to acquire a token. And that's likely why no one actually has used cryptocurrency for anything other than making more cryptocurrency. It's a very odd kind of a loop that falls into itself. What is Koinos? Some quick technical information. You can find a lot about this on the internet, but it's a new blockchain, layer 1 as they call it. It uses microservice architecture instead of a monolithic architecture. You can upgrade it without doing hard forks, and it runs this thing called a proof of burn consensus mechanism, as opposed to what you may have heard as proof of work or proof of stake. So currently it's on its third and final testnet phase, and the team has basically launched this third testnet, and you can run it right now and try out the system. But the mainnet's going to launch later this year. A lot of people in the community suspect that it will launch towards the end of Q2, maybe Q3, but definitely later in 2022. And I won't bore you with the specific details about the technical aspects of it. It's just not interesting for the normal person because there's so much terminology behind it that makes it very difficult to really get into. If you are trying to understand the fundamentals of Koinos, then the first thing we have to talk about is fees. For people who use crypto, they understand this problem already. If you don't use crypto on the other hand, then what you have to understand is that anyone can access it. And because anyone can access it, anyone can perform transactions on it. And there's an obvious problem here. If you make these systems permissionless, people tend to use it and abuse it, which means that they can jam up the entire system and you won't be able to use it. And that's why you have to control how people actually use these blockchains. And the way to do that is by charging fees. If you have to charge a fee for every little bit of action you do on a blockchain, it prevents you from basically performing unlimited amounts of transactions. And that's the main reason why you haven't seen a decentralized application take off yet. Because if I use something like an Instagram on a blockchain, everything I do will cost me money. If I like a photo, upload a photo, if I send a message, make a comment, all of those services can actually cost money. And while blockchains like Polygon or Avalanche have been able to reduce those fees to just pennies, the fact of the matter is that you have to figure out how to get those tokens to pay for those fees, because those fees cannot be paid for in fiat currency. You must use that native chain's token in order to pay it. And so that creates a very difficult situation where you have to manage your tokens, manage the private keys, manage the password and accesses to these wallets because they're not actually wallets. So fundamentally, if you want to get involved in blockchain, you have to deal with these problems, and the chances of you screwing it up early on because of how complex it is actually rather high. For most people, if they forget their passwords, and a lot of people do, they can recover their passwords, but there's no option in that in crypto. If you manage your own tokens and you forget your password, I'm sorry, that's it, it's over. You lose everything. If you want to use a blockchain, if you want to use an application, there's potentially loss in money in that, and it doesn't make any sense because there's no way that you can offer a type of service where you could potentially lose everything just by forgetting a password. It doesn't work like that in real life. And that's why current blockchains, they're just not suitable for mass adoption or widely used applications such as social media applications. Now, Koinos has actually found a way to eliminate that entirely. And that is because fees are used to control access to the blockchain. And you can use other methods to control access to the blockchain that don't require someone to pay money. The way they do this is by using something called mana. Now, if you ever played an RPG, you may already know what mana is. But if you haven't, a good analogy is going to the gym. If anybody's ever done a curling exercise with their arm, with their bicep, they'll know this very quickly. Everyone can bicep curl a different weight, but everyone will eventually succumb to fatigue. Their arm is going to get so pumped up that they can't even pick up the weight of their own arm. And the only way to solve that problem is time. If you give it enough time, your arm will recover and you can begin to pick up weight again. The more time you wait, the more you can go back to curling a heavy weight. And that's basically how mana works. When you have coin, you automatically get this feature called mana. The more coin you have, the more mana you have. It's the same thing as the stronger you are, the more weight you can actually curl. But everybody eventually curls their arm to death and they won't be able to lift their own arm. And that's the same case with anyone who holds coin. Eventually, people will run out of mana, and the only way to get mana back is through time. They have to wait for the mana to recharge, just like they have to wait for their arm to gain strength again. Now, mana is 100% free to coin holders. If you hold coin, you automatically get mana. And this is where the magic happens. You don't actually have to hold coin to use mana, because there's an ability for other people to give you their mana. If they give you access to their mana supply, you don't have to hold a coin token. You don't have to manage private keys. You don't have to manage the password to your wallet, because if you lose it, no big deal. They can just move that mana into another wallet and give you the password to that wallet. And most importantly, they don't have to deal with an exchange. You do not need to connect to an exchange and move your fiat currency into the exchange to buy the coin token to acquire the mana. And this is why I'm advocating that I have nothing to sell you. You don't need to buy a coin in order to experience blockchain. You don't need to buy coin in order to use a decentralized application, because the groundwork is laid out for you to experience blockchain without ever having to touch the coin token. This is why you can actually get a lot of people involved in blockchain without them having to deal with buying the token or acquiring it. So going on to the next part is mining on Koinos. This is more important for people trying to produce an income using blockchain technology. So you may have heard of mining on Bitcoin, and there's a lot of videos on how that works over here. We'll jump straight to it and assume that you are aware that mining is a way to generate new tokens. On Koinos, you can mine. The consensus mechanism that they chose to create or use is called proof of burn. It's not available on any other blockchain. It's something that's new to the Koinos blockchain. It blends together the best parts of proof of stake and proof of work. So in order to participate in mining, you must first acquire the coin token itself. So with that coin token, you burn the token and you give up the rights to the ownership of the token. However, in return, you have the rights to create new tokens. Through this process called mining, you're able to generate those tokens and earn them back, which means that you're going to be made whole. And you're also going to be given a reward on top of that, which incentivizes you to participate in mining. Now, mining on Koinos is completely virtualized. You can run your own network node and do self-mining, solo mining, where you burn, you run your computer, and you're actively producing blocks. But you will also be able to participate in mining pools where you burn the coin token, give someone else the rights to mine, and then have them give you a portion of their mining rewards, while they get to keep a small fee in order to actually run the computer that's required to produce the blocks. The proof of burn mining contract is still being written right now. Today is March 17th, 2022. And therefore, we don't know the specifics exactly how it works, but this is enough to get you to understand the basics of it. I'll produce another video to describe the specifics on how it works once this mining contract actually comes out. You can actually learn about it through our Koinos talks that are live every Wednesday on Twitter. Follow at Koinos Forum, and you can get a weekly update on exactly what's going on with the development of mainnet. Now, the last part is the power of a feeless blockchain. Feeless blockchains have an ability to allow a larger base of people to become users of blockchain. I touched on it a little bit before about mining, but I'll get into it again because it's a very misunderstood concept, however, extremely easy to explain. Let's talk about your experience using existing social media programs like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. The network effect of Instagram is far more valuable than anything else on that platform. The network effect actually puts tiers to its users. There's the end user like you and I who observe things on the program. We don't ever pay for Instagram, we just use it. Now, there's also the influencer. Now, the influencer gets paid by a third party to present things to you. They have a way of making money, and Instagram is really their business model. Advertisers actually pay to use Instagram. They pay to either put ads on Instagram or they pay influencers to talk to people to sell their products. And so this is called the network effect. In blockchain, specifically the Koinos blockchain, we're gonna use exact same effect to a different degree because there's different tiers of people. Again, there's the end user, it's gonna be you and I. Suppose we had a decentralized Instagram. We would use it and access it in the exact same manner, feeless. There's no management of wallets. There might be a login password, but we won't need to pay in order to use it. Businesses will still get to advertise on this platform. Instead of moving the money from the business to Instagram and having a piece of it taken off, there's now a way for them to connect directly to the users. And it's going to be a more fair model because Instagram isn't taking a cut. Now, the only reason why this would actually work is because of the network effect. There are enough users on this decentralized application such that someone can find this network, find this group of people, and to be able to deploy their service on top of it. Now, if they had an intermediary, such as a centralized Instagram service, they would always have to go through them first. Businesses that use decentralized applications in the future will be able to skip the middleman. They will be able to connect directly with their users in a much more direct way, saving costs for them or reducing costs for their product. And so it actually makes things more efficient. Now, this network effect is only possible if the network grows large enough. And this is why there's a huge incentive to provide a free to access blockchain. Without a free to use blockchain, the size of the end user cannot grow. They demand basically free usage of applications. There's no way Instagram would be as popular or Facebook or YouTube would be as popular if it were not free to access. All of those services are free to access because of the size of the network has more value to the person paying. And this is why it's so important to have free access to blockchains. Now, this is going to be the last part. It's specifically geared towards developers. If we can solve the network size by having a free to access blockchain, we also need developers to create applications so that they can deploy it to these large networks. And so if you ever gone down the project management route, you would have noticed that the inception of an idea is far different from the final product that you deliver. There are constraints that prevent you from always delivering exactly what you want. And so there's a change going on as a project evolves. And so on blockchain, one of the issues before is that because of its immutability, the fact that things live on blockchain and cannot be edited, it prevents people from writing really good applications that iterate over time. And so Koinos removes as many of those constraints as possible. They first allow you to create decentralized applications in any language that you prefer. Most popular one is likely going to be JavaScript, which we have support for. AssemblyScript, a very, very similar thing to JavaScript. There's already support for C++, and you can basically add any language that can compile to a WebAssembly virtual machine, which is what's powering Koinos blockchain. And now, if you're a developer, you should be aware that all things on a blockchain require some type of transaction fee if you're going to use Ethereum or any other blockchain. On Koinos, that idea has been abstracted through the use of mana, so you can create any smart contract that you wish, and the user of that smart contract will never have to pay any gas fees, which means that you can actually write some very creative things. You can create applications or individual smart contracts that don't require the end user to pay a single penny. That allows you to create really anything you want. And on top of that, you can upgrade these smart contracts. You can upgrade them as you need, as your application grows, to add new features. You can create other smart contracts, chain them together. And what this results in is ultimately a very pain-free development experience that has the ability to reach a lot of people because they don't have to pay a fee. So we're really working both sides of the market here. We're creating a very easy to access way for networks to grow by giving end users a free to access blockchain, and we're giving developers the maximum amount of freedom to create what they want without fear of a small user base. So I can grow the user base and give developers freedom. And what this is going to allow is the maximum growth of both sides of the market, the developers and the end users. And hopefully that's the idea behind creating a blockchain that will actually be able to be used by everyone for free. Okay, so that's really the end of this video. Hopefully you understood why a fiat blockchain is very important, why Koinos is poised to become a very powerful blockchain in the very near future with the release of mainnet coming later this year in 2022. And if you don't want to hold the coin token, that's fine. We'll make sure that you can use Koinos blockchain without ever having to touch the coin token.